Hello and welcome back to another tutorial. This is part of the Python Fundamentals tutorial series, and we're going to continue with the strings. So the last video covered about a lot of the general base stuff that you need to know about strings, and this video is just going to be a continuation. Again, I have this amount of time. I think each video shouldn't be long enough. Should be as long or it shouldn't be longer than. We might finish strings in this video, but if we don't, there'll be a part 3. But let's see what happens. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started as well. So getting back to where we were, what I've done, I've just started up a new project, which I would suggest you do the same, a new script. And I've already ran just the first 4 lines that we had from the other video. So right now we have first name back, which is F names is Michael, last name, L names is Hamilton, M name is middle name is Andre, and then name is the entire name, my entire name, Michael Andre Hamilton. And the first thing I want to talk about next about strings, and the next things I'm going to cover, a lot of time is used heavily in data wrangling, like strings. Knowing how to manipulate strings is used in what we call NLP NLP programs, like natural language programming type processes. So how do you partition strings? How do you get the white space off strings? That's the type of things we're going to cover. Strings is just a very popular data type. Let's get it. All right, so one of the first thing I want to talk about is what they call string partitioning. I'm going to say string partitioning. I think that's spelled correctly. All right, so this is when you want to break a string apart at some given intersection. So in examples of strings, it's splitting the string based on a word. So what if I wanted to split this string in half based on the word Andrew? So I'm gonna call this P name a partition name is equal to I'm gonna take the name object, which represents Michael Andre Hamilton, and then there is a function called partition. You see here, partition. And what we're going to do, we're going to say we want to partition off Andre, so you can see what happens. So if I partition off my middle name, you'll notice that what it's done, it's taken Andre, which had no spaces, and said anything before Andre is a separation. Anything after Andre is separated. And you remember with strings, white spaces are characters. So you'll notice in the partition, Michael has a space behind it, because that's the reason why you see it's the colon, or not the colon, the single quote is not next to the L, which means that the space was given to Michael, and the space after Andre was actually given to Hamilton. And the reason is why is because here, when I define Andre, I didn't have any spaces on either side. Therefore, these two spaces here have to go somewhere, and it just split them based on the name. So for instance, if I wanted to access the different parts, this is a tuple, remember? So the tuple is indexed just like a list. So if I say P name, open bracket 0, that'll give me the Michael with the space, right? And if I do P name, open bracket 1, this would give me the Andre part with no space, and then P names, open brackets 2. This will give you the last part of the name with the space. And remember, I will have a video on tuples at some point. But for right now, just know that to access positions of a tuple is 0 indexed, very similar to other things I've shown, and the index position is matches the element position just -1. I might be giving too much information, but at this point, just know that you index them 0, 1, and 2. 0 is in the first position, 1 is for the second position, element in second position, and 2 is for the element in the third position. All right, so we talked about breaking the word apart. And remember, like this, it could be any type of sentence. What if I wanted to, for instance, let's use a real sentence. Let's say if I created a sentence, this is a second example, and the sentence is equal to the dog barked and the cat meowed. Okay, and so if I wanted to partition this sentence, I'm just going to put it back into the same variable. So sentence is sentence dot partition, and say we wanted to partition around and, right? It's going to do the same thing. It's going to separate these into two sentences, which is what you wanted for this one. This one I'm going to put the space with the and, so I'm going to do space and space. So those spaces that would have been here would actually be with the and now. So the space is with the and. So if I hit shift enter here, again, me going too fast, says sentence is not defined, and it's right. Sentence does not exist in my list. So I got to go shift enter here first. That puts sentence here as one string. Then when I do shift enter here, now it split the string. Now you notice how there's no space after bark this time, but the spaces are after the and. But there's no spaces after the cat meowed. So this is another way to split this sentence into its parts. The first sentence, the I think it's called conjunction. It's been a long time. Don't trust my English skills. The conjunction, and then you have the second part of the sentence. So that's a way to get those pieces of the sentences, and each tuple represents each part of the string. So sentences are just strings, right? They have a subject and a verb. So that's a way to handle that part. All right, what else you need to know about this? I think the only other thing that you might want to know how to deal with is that white space. So the next thing I want to talk about is removing the white space. So for instance, for Andre part of the string, for P names, let's look at this. Let me write this. How to remove white spaces. Okay, so if we look at this string, especially the P name string, P name has a for the first part of the tuple has a white space after the L and a white space above the H. All right, so there's I think there's a few ways to do it, but one of them I want you to learn right off the bat is it's called strip. So strip will remove white spaces before and after a string. For instance, if I were to take P name, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna remove the white space after this name and this part using the strip command. So if to access Michael, right? Remember it's P name open bracket 0. That is that part of the string. Remember it's a tuple. There's size 3, so that means there's 3 indexes that access it. So if I take this and say P name open 0, which represents that string, is equal to, all right, P name, same thing I did with the string. That's that same dot, because it's a string. It has a command called strip. You see this? So this is what I want you to do. Strip and just leave it like that. And then watch what happens when I run this line here. So when before it, you have a white space here, right? After, that's right. So this is something about tuples. Tuples don't allow you to change the data. I forgot about this when I started. Tuples do not allow for this type of interaction. So that's what makes tuples great. You can't, once they're assigned, you can't change them. So we're going to do this a little differently. I'm going to just recreate a string. So for the first name, I'm going to use the first name string. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put white spaces in it. And just to show the example. So first name is equal to, instead of it just being Michael, I'm going to say space Michael, or 2 spaces Michael, 3 spaces Michael, and then hit enter. So like this is something you might not want. Okay, so to get rid of that, I could just say the name is equal to, because I don't want to create a new object, I just want this to be corrected. So I want this variable to be assigned to what I do to it. So elf name dot strip, and make sure you understand this. The way code work, it does what's to the right first, and then it does what the thing to do first, and then once it does what you have it equal to first, the output is always assigned to last. So therefore, this happens before this assignment happens. This is the reasons why you can just say the name of the object is equal to the name. This strip happens, and then once the strip happens, it returns back the results. The results is what's put into the variable that is equal to. Therefore, you can always do this just due to how the coding procedure works. All right, so now if you look up here at this up here and watch what happens when I run this line of code, shift enter. Now you'll notice that the spaces are gone. So you had spaces first, and now you don't have the spaces. So that's what the strip does. Now I want to bring the spaces back and show you what the other two strips do. So this is this strip. This removes all white spaces around the string. Okay, so that's what that does. All right, so the next strip I'm going to show you is a strip that's used to move like white spaces either on the left side or move white spaces on the right side. Right side. So let's do that one. So say we do elf name, and the string was same thing, space Michael, space. All right, and so this is your string. This is very common. You get some data where the strings are not like they got artifact spaces in it, and you want to like you don't mind the right space, but you want to remove the space from the left side. So if we take this and say elf name is equal to elf name, and the command is still a strip command, except it's called L strip. L strip means left strip. So you say L stripped, there it is. And if you call this command, shift enter, what it does, it removes the letters from the left side but not the right side. And how I know it's still there is because this size, it says it's 15, but the letters are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But there's only 7 letters. So you know there's 7 letters, but there's 50, it's a size 15, which means that it must have some white spaces. So that's one of the ways you can tell there's a space there. I think another way, if I were just to run the line of code, you can tell also when it outputs, you see where the 2 quotes are? This single quote is where it's supposed to be, right beside the M. But the back quote is way out here. So all of these is considered spaces. So what I'm going to do, like I say, this removes white space to the left of the string, and then this one equal to elf name R strip removes remove white spaces to the right of the string. So when I run this line, you'll notice that I just ran it. You'll notice this went down to 7. So now the size matched the amount of characters you actually see. And if we just print it out, elf name, hit enter, you'll see that Michael now doesn't have any white spaces. That the semicolons are right next to the letter. There is no space in between. So these are common string manipulations that you need to be aware of. All right, so the next one, cleaning up strings, is what if you wanted to change it all to the same case. So for instance, right now we have name. If you look at name, up here name is the capital letter M is capitalized, A is capitalized, and H is capitalized. So a lot of times in processing, you want all the letters to be all caps or all lowercase, and they have a quick key for that. So to reduce everything down to lowercase only with no capitalizations, let me print it out first. We have name, shift enter just to see it down here. So right now name is capitalized, with the first letters. If I do name is equal to name dot lower. It's a function. Shift enter, and then look at name again. Now you'll see that name has been lowercase completely. So Michael Andre Hamilton. And say if you want it the other way, you can also say name is equal to name dot upper, and then look at name again. You'll see now Michael is all capitalized. So those are two types of functions that you should be aware of when you're trying to like make uniformity within the upper or lowercase capitalization of the names. So that's a very common function, manipulation function that's used for strings. So I like to write my notes as I go for so you'll know if you're following along. So this is to lowercase all the letters in the string, and this is to uppercase all the letters in the string. Okay. Another thing you will want to do with strings is, let me think. I think it's the. I have to look at my side notes. Oh yeah, unwanted characters. So this is very popular, or like bad characters. Say it's a name. Let's just say it's not a name. Say it's a I'm trying to think of something like some order number. Like so, order number is star star star. They got 3 stars in the front, and then it's X G X. I'm literally making this up as I go. 1 3 2 4 5, and then for some reason a $sign got added by mistake. And what else? And 9, and then parentheses, and then backspace. Say this was your string, and I'm gonna make it a string. So just so you have this example, say this is the string, right? And what really is what you want is XGX 1 2 4 5 9. All this other stuff is noise. Just say it's noise. Like, you really need to clean this up so you can do that. And this is what this is an argument that the strips things we've learned up here. Right now we didn't put anything as an argument in the strip. An argument, like we didn't pass an argument to it. But in the strip, when you don't put anything in here, what it does, it assumes you're looking for white spaces, which is just a double colon with a space. It's going to strip all the white spaces from the strings. So what you want to do with this one, we're going to use that same command, except all these elements that we don't like, we're just going to keep passing it through until we get it the way we want. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Say we want to get rid of the asterisks, so we'll say order number, okay, is equal to order number, which is the string, strip. Now again, strip, left strip and right strip work the same, except one focus on the left side and right. But I'm going to use strip so I can do it all. If I want to just remove the asterisk to the left side, I would need to use left strip. I'm not going to show an example, but I just want to, that would be how you would do it. If you wanted to move things to the right side, you would use the other one. But I want to strip everything. So I want to strip the asterisk. So I use a simple semicolon and I put in asterisk. So what this means is that it's going to strip off all the asterisks from the string. So if I do shift enter, as you see, let's print it out down here. You'll notice now we got the asterisk gone. So now what I want to strip next is the $sign and the what you call it, the percent signs. I think you can do it together as long as you send the objects in as a list. So a list is a container type which we'll get to, actually mean outer strings that's in a bracket, and anything in that bracket separated by a comma, the strip command will look at each case and do that to the objects. So what I want to do to strip the next two items, I could have done this with all of them, but for the next two items, I want to show you how you can strip with multiple inputs. So if I say order number, if equals to order number dot strip, and inside here now I'm gonna open brackets, big brackets, right? The big brackets, and we'll talk more about these big brackets later. I'm gonna open the colon and do a asterisk, and then I'm gonna do a comma, and I'm gonna open colons again, not an asterisk, my bad, I already did that, a dollar sign for the first one, and a percent sign for the second one. So if I'm not mistaken, when I run this line of code, because I'm using this list command, this represents a list inside the bracket, it should strip both of them off. So I do shift enter. Okay, so that does not work. Strip argument must be none or a string. Alright, so it doesn't take a list. So we'll do it one at a time. It might, but I'm not going to go through and actually look to see. I'm not sure if that's even possible. So we'll continue doing it one at a time. Alright, so we're going to strip the dollar sign next. So the dollar sign, let's see, order number. I see, I thought I stripped the dollar sign. I didn't strip the dollar sign. I'm actually surprised. I thought that all I would have to do is just strip that one. I might have to do right and left strip. So let's look at it this way. I think the problem is that the dollar sign is not at the end of a I think the reason why I can't strip the dollar sign is because the strip commands are looking to strip things that are at the ends. So I'm just now reminding myself what strip does. It's looking to see what's at the end of things. So like if the characters leading up to the end and characters looking up to the end, that's what it's trying to strip. The problem with the dollar sign is 9 is not at the end of the list. 9 is an actual number that we're trying to keep. So that being said, I can't strip the dollar because it's not at the end. It's before the 9. So let's look at the ends. So we got to start with the ends first. So I want to strip out the parentheses, the right parentheses. I'm going to change this to right parentheses. Take the dollar sign out and then do right parentheses. And I do shift enter. And you'll notice that those parentheses, all the ones that was facing the right side, if I do order number, you'll see they're gone. So these parentheses are gone now, and now we left with this. So next I have to strip this part. So that's why I say that's the mistake I made. You can't you only can strip things at the end. It can't be within the number. So next we can strip this. So we'll do that next, equal to order number dot strip, open bracket, and then I want to do it the other way. All right, enter. Okay, so now it stripped those. Let's look at it. Order number. All right, so now we got the percent signs again, because now we can get rid of the percent signs. So order is equal to, let's get the percent sign. So that got rid of the percent signs. And so if we go to order, let's see. And now you got it down to the numbers. So XGX 1245 $9. Now I know a way to get rid of the dollar sign. I'm just not going to do it in this tutorial because we'll talk about that later. But you can write a little for with a condition to get rid of it, to check to see if it's a number or not. But we're not going to do that in this tutorial. So again, the strip commands helps you strip off things that are on the outsides, whether it's white spaces or other types of characters, or even numbers. I mean, so if the number is on the outside, so you want to get rid of the 9 on the outside, I can get rid of it. Or I can do like a loop and get rid of the dollar sign within it. But like I said, and remember, left and right strip is about which side you want to strip on. All right, so I covered that part. Let's talk about replacing. So if you wanted to replace, look at this. I'm gonna use replace to fix this fully. I want to replace the. I want to see that this work. I'm gonna use the replace command to replace the dollar sign with a white space, and then I want to try strip white space. And then see, does it automatically put the 9 with the rest of the numbers? Hey, I don't know. I'm doing this real time. That's why it's called one-on-one with Mike. Let's try that. So the replace command is another function. I'm going to say order number is equal to order number dot and replace. So what it does, you put in a string and then you first what you want to be changed, and then you put a comma, and then you make that change. You make that replacement. So if I do replace, just one of the option, and it's telling you, I love how it tells you here too. It says replace does the old, wants to know what the old string is, and what you want to replace it with the new string. So in this case, what we've been working on, I want to replace, in this one, I want to replace what is it? This is the dollar sign. I want to replace the dollar sign, comma, and I'm going to replace it with an empty space. So all I did, I put a single quote and I hit space bar. And what that does, it put an empty space between the the quotes, which indicates that I want to add an actual white space. So when I do shift enter on this, you notice, I did exactly what I was hoping for. Order number num. Look at it now. Now the dollar sign is gone. It's gone to white space. Now I'm wondering if I were to do strip white space now, will it go ahead and pull it all together? So just stripped. Nope. It does not do what I thought it would do. So again, the strip is for outer white spaces and stuff like that. It's not for it's not for internal white spaces. So, but what I can do though, I'm gonna show you how to fix this. And like I said, I'm trying to do everything with this, just using the strings class without other techniques. But right now, given what you can fix this problem. So what I would do to solve this visually, I would say order number is equal to order number dot replace, and I'm gonna replace the white space we created with the number 9. Right? So now I should have 2 9s, right? And so now I want to now I want to I should have done this a little differently, but it'd be easier for me just to order dot number equal order number dot replace. I want to replace 9 with white space, and then I add a 9 to a white space. Nope, that ain't what I would do. I would say order number is equal to order number. What do we learn about slicing, right? If you open this up, I want everything from the beginning, so from 0 to the last number. So I want everything to it's 8, because 8 will be the last number in the index, and what that would do, it's going to remove the 9. And what I did, you notice that the 9 is removed. Let me show it to you. And I'm going to explain to you why that worked. It worked because that 9 was in the last place of the list. So it went from, before I removed the 9, there was 9 elements, which means that it went from 0 to 8. The colon, if you don't put a number before the colon, all this means is to start at the beginning. So it'd be the same as me putting 0 here. So 0 could have been here, and this does the exact same thing. So from 0 is inclusive, if you remember. 8 is exclusive. So since 8 is exclusive, when I put an 8, it's going to give me from 0 to 7. So it reduced to 9. So that's how I solved this problem. So what I did, I replaced the space here, stripped it to move the 9, right? Then added an extra 9, and then I didn't want that, so I just decided, and I didn't want that space in the back, so I just ended up just stripping it just to remove everything except the last numbers. So we know that there is no spacing here, no spacing issue at all. So now we have what we want. We have XGX 1 2 4 5 9. So what we've done here, I've kind of given you kind of two things. We talked about how to do these manipulations, but this is kind of like a little mini wrangling. We did a mini wrangling. Your data wrangling, where you get data and it's kind of messy a little bit, so you have to like wrangle it into a form that you can use it. Now we know that the form of XGX 1 2 4 5 is something that we can actually use versus the version that was given to us at the beginning. All right, so we talked about replace. We could talk about all kinds of stuff. With a string, especially big strings, you can start getting things that you need to be able to, some stats on it, like the number of letters that are in that string or the number of words used. For instance, let me give you an example. Let's create a string. Let's create another sentence. And I'm going to make this sentence out of my mind. I am very happy today, and I love watching, I don't know, watching TV in the morning. Okay, that's the string. So say you want to know how many I's are in this string, like the actual I. There is a count command. So if you do sentence dot count and pass in what you want, and we want to know about the letter I, if I hit shift enter, well, there are 2 I's in the string. You got an I at the beginning and you got an I here. So it's letting you know there are actually 2 I's in this string. So that's one of the ways. You can use strings to figure out if a letter start with something. So for instance, it'll give you true or false if it starts. So if I said sentence dot start with, and then I say C, I hit shift enter, it's going to say false because this sentence does not start with the letter C. But if I say I, it's going to say true because the sentence does start with the letter C. And there's also a end with command. So if I copy this, I just copy this and then do end with. Yeah, I misspelled it. I mean, dot tab. Oh, not tab. Dot. So I think it pulls up the thing. End. There it is. Oh, it's ends with. Ends with I. Shift enter, and it says false. Now I'm gonna show you this. It is case sensitive. Like even though it ends with the G, it doesn't end with the capital G. If I do shift enter on this, it's false. It ends with the lowercase g. So when you're working with strings, it's definitely case sensitive because a lowercase and uppercase G are actually different in regards to strings. So it's, oh, I'm wrong in both cases. It doesn't end with the G in each one. What's the last letter? I'm making a mistake. It ends with a period. So I would have been wrong in both cases. Shift. It's true. So the last letter is a period, not a G. I forgot about the period. Even me. And machine learning, these are called stop words. So a lot of time when I'm processing, I don't have these in. I don't have to worry about these types of marks because I wouldn't I wouldn't have them in the, they wouldn't be inside the string anyway. Let's see what else. I'm just looking at my notes of things that I like to cover. Oh, another a big thing that's coming is that you might want to split this string out into a list. We haven't talked about lists, but I just want to show you how to do that, because when we cover list, anything that we do in list, you'll be able to do. So what if we wanted the string in a list? Because right now I'm going to show you the reasons why. Remember we talked about a string. If we iterate through a string like this, I'll show you that example. Let's see. When we iterate through a string normally, remember like we talked about this I think in the last lecture, for val in sentence, okay, print val. And remember, this is going to print out each in a string. When you iterate, it's print out letters. So if I do it this way, shift enter, I get all these letters, right? Like all the way down. It's long. I am very happy. It's printing them one by one. But say if you wanted the words, not the letters. And this is where splitting a string does. It creates a list, and for each word, it pockets each word in its own individual position. So instead of it printing out letters, it'll start printing out words. So for instance, I'm gonna do this, and like I said, we'll talk about lists. If you don't understand list, watch the list video, because that as thoroughly I'm going through strings, I'm going to be that thorough in my list video. But to create one, I'm gonna just say sentence is equal to sentence dot split. And so you see right now sentence says a string, but now sentence is going to say it's a list. It's a list of 13 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12, 13. You don't see it on the screen. I double click on it. Oh, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I love this layout. I really do. This is the indexing. It's kind of like what I drew the other day. So it goes from 0 to 12, which is 13. These are what's in those. You know, in 0 position is I. In the first position is A. In the second position is very, you know, and so forth. This is the string size. So happy is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 letters, 3 letters, 1 letter. The size give you how big the word is, you know. But now when I did that loop here, when I rerun this same loop, because now it's a list, you don't have to change any code to the loop. When I do shift highlight and shift enter this part, you'll see now each row. So the first time is I, second time is am very happy today, and I love watching TV. So now you have it returning back a word every turn versus a letter. Up here, it returned back a letter. So each loop, the first loop here was I, and the second loop was, you know, space, then am. You know, space is a character, so space, then A, then M. Down here where the first 3 loops is I am very. So hopefully I know I feel like I'm repeating myself, but hopefully you understand the principle. And that's very important. It's very common to want to split a string into its words and use the words for making, you know, for making decisions or any of that type of stuff. Let's see what else. You can align your strings by adding white space to a string. So for instance, let me show you. I think these last couple things are worth talking about. I'm looking at the time, so we're at the 38-minute mark at the moment ish. So I'm gonna talk about just 2 other things. One is justifying your strings. So for instance, say you had a string like Michael. Let's look at F name. And you want it centered. Say like you will be willing to add white space to make sure that Michael is centered, but you want to add white space, but keep it name centered. There's a command for that. If you do F, my name is equal to F name, and then you say you want it center, and then what you do, you pass it. I'm just going to do the base one. You pass it how many white spaces you want to center with. So if I do 100 and do shift enter, you'll notice that when I look at F name again, you'll see now this the spacing where this word is not perfectly centered in this spacing. So like say if you're trying to write a document using, this, you might want this to be centered for your title, and then you have and left justified for all the other stuff. So right there's 100, it's a size 100, and Michael is perfectly centered within 100 size. And so like say if you want it right justified or left justified, I think I wonder, I'm gonna see what happens when I just do this elf name, see if it adds another 100. I hope not. So if I do right justified, it's still 100. Oh, I know what it's doing. It's added another. It put the 100 to the right. Let me see. Let me see. Let me look at elf name. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to do this real time. Nope, it didn't do it. Why it didn't do what I think it should do? Maybe it's because this is already string. So what I'm gonna do now, since we've already learned this, first I want to see something. I'm gonna strip the white space. That'll get it back to normal. We've learned this, right? Strip. That takes all the white spaces away. And now I want to do elf name is equal to elf name dot right justified for 100. Okay, so now it worked. I see that it didn't work when it was already had white spaces. I don't know why. I have to look into that. So now it's right justified 100 to one side. So you see how there's 100 white. The entire thing is 100, but it moved name to the right side of it. I just don't know why I can't do it real time. But I will show you a little trick that's not above. I would say it's a little bit above just Python fundamentals, but you can do this here. You can do this in one strip. You can do the strip, then add the right justification, all in one step. You don't have to do this in 2 steps. It's called chaining. I think it's called chaining functions. It knows when you write the order of how you want things done, it knows you have to do that in that exact order. So for instance, if I say equal to first elf name, I want you to strip the white space, then I want you to right adjust by 100. Oh, not right adjust, we did that already. Let's do left adjust. There should be a L adjust. Let's see, dot L adjust. Yes, I want to make sure 100. And what this should do, this function should strip the white space first, and then adjust left adjust. So if I do shift enter here, as you see, it did exactly what I expected. So what it did, instead of the white space being on that, now on this side, like this one, the white space was on this side. Now the white space is on this side of the string. So that's where the string ends. That's where it begins. And now the white space is on the far side of the string. That's what that does. The last thing you might want to do, let's see. You might want to know where things are in the string and where the index start. So like for instance, for the string name, what if I wanted to know where does the name start? There is a find command. I think it's called I think it is find. I think it's find. So if I want to say elf name dot find, okay, and I put in Andre, ANDRE, and hit shift enter, it returns back a -1. Why did it return back a -1? Give me a second. Elf name, that's this. Oh, it returned back a -1 because Andre is not in elf name. So it's letting you know it couldn't find an index of -1 means in this case, this index is just not, it just couldn't find a number. It should have been positive. -1 lets us know that it didn't give us an actual positive index. So I didn't want to find it in elf name. I wanted to actually find it in p name, because that's the name of no, not name, not p name, because that's broken down into a tuple. It's not a string. I wanted to find it in name. Name is actually a string. This is a string command, and Andre is in this name, but it's capitalized. So I want to delete the p and then I want to make Andre capitalized, ANDRE, and then shift enter. And as you can see, it says 8. So that means that the A is at 8. So that's where to start. It's going to give you where the start of the name starts. So this starts at index position 8, and you can't see it here, but if I were to say name, open brackets, 8, it's going to return back A, and this A is that A, the Andre A. And so that's what the find command does. It allows you to locate what index that phrase that you put in actually start. So for instance, just to say it doesn't have to be a name. What if I put in name dot find LT? You might be looking for like pieces of a name. So LT, right? LT, shift enter. That's not in there. So in name, a lowercase LT doesn't exist. So I'm gonna go back and put a capital LT, and it says it's 18. So this L here must be at position 18. So name, open brackets, 18 is where the L is. If I want both, right, we'll have to use slicing. Remember, you'll put in the position that you know is exclusive, but instead of 19, I need to put in 20 because 20 is exclusive. So LT would be returned. Again, this requires practice too. I mean, I know I'm kind of doing this fast. I will assume that if you're typing along, you know, you have the ability to pause and stuff, but practice this. String manipulations, I look back at my history of me using this in the industry and education and teaching. Strings probably is the most common. I mean, I've used this. The better you're able at manipulating strings, the better your programming journey would be when you start getting into the real world, because a lot of data that's given to you are given to you in string form, because it's the easiest. It's the form of data that can be exported of all types. So in Python, a string comes in as an object, and then once you get it in, you'll have to convert the data and convert this in the format that you need for your analysis, whatever that is. And so the better you're at string manipulation, the easier it's going to be for you to do data wrangling, to be able to set up natural language processing problems, and all of that stuff, because it's all string based, and you have to turn it into numerical answers, numbers that make sense to the machine. So I just want to put that little plug for just really understanding your basics is the key to being a good data scientist. The more you understand your basics, the better a data scientist you're going to be. Again, thank you for watching this tutorial for strings part 2. I actually covered everything that I think that needs to be kind of taught in a beginner's level strings part 2. We'll do a mini recap. So we started with the strings. We talked about how to create partitions, which is just splitting strings. We talked about removing white spaces, the whole white spaces. We talked about lowercase and uppercase letters, how to change strings to be all caps and all lowercase. We talked about different ways to strip. Remember, stripping is always on the outside of the string, so whether it's white spaces or letters or symbols or special characters, you do all that stripping that way. We talked about replacing, like say you have some part of the string you want to replace with something else. That's another thing you can actually do, replacing strings. We talked about counting, figuring out if a string starts with a letter or ends with the letter, or figuring out the number of times that letter is actually in the object. We worked on that. I talked about the difference between looping through strings and looping through a list, because sometimes you want to split the word into, the string into words. That words is stored into lists, and when you iterate through a list, it gives you the entire word back, where when you iterate through a string, it just gives you the letters back. And I said we would go further with lists in the future videos. We talked about centering, left and right justification of strings, and lastly, we talked about how to find the index start locations of pieces of strings that you're looking for, whether that piece is the actual entire sentence or that piece is some partial word of the sentence, or like maybe it could be some little code that you're looking to see if there's some code throughout the text that you need to identify. That's pretty much what we talked about. Again, thank you for watching this tutorial. I think the next tutorial will be on list. So get ready to start learning everything about list that you should know as a beginner Python programmer. Take care, and I wish you the best.